Hello everybody and welcome to Tram Reviews, back with another Hong Kong content review, diving into a more mainstream, more modern Hong Kong film for a change of pace with Limbo, released in 2001, directed by Soi Cheang, who has done a few films that I've really wanted to check out, but I've not got around to as of yet. He's done Accident, which I do believe is on Netflix. I think he's done Killzone 2. There's a few kind of hard-hitting kind of Hong Kong movies, thrillers, action films that are really high regarded, that really are talked about and buzzed about, and this is just another one of his lineup that has got a lot of attention recently, I think mainly due to the German 4K edition that's been recently released, and everyone seems to be on my feed and people are talking about it from different sites and suggestions, all on this film, Limbo, from 2001, and I don't know why it's taken this long for a film like this to maybe get word of mouth. Maybe it's down to the release of the film, because a lot of these Hong Kong movies, mainstream ones, can get some releases, but it take a long time to get actual physical releases. So maybe it's a case of that. Maybe people are just recently noticing the brand new kind of physical release of it, and it's getting people excited, and people giving us really high regarded reviews. And I can see why. The film stars Lam Kon Tong, who is in the election movie. He's in Infernal Affairs. A lot of kind of late kind of 2000s kind of Hong Kong movies, and he's still going on strong. There's a lot of films I've yet to see of him, but he's a recognizable name and kind of the mainstream name of this kind of movie. His partner is Mason Lee, and we also have a female actress as well who's also playing the kind of third main character in the film. I can't quite pronounce her name, but she's absolutely fantastic in the film. And this film is based on a novel called Wisdom Tooth, and I can see why this film is getting a lot of buzz and a lot of kind of, word of mouth recently. And it's definitely a good change of pace and very refreshing to see a modern kind of 2000s kind of, Hong Kong film take a few risks, being a kind of a mainland kind of, China / Hong Kong production. This film is pretty hard hitting. It's got a very unique style, very unique kind of flavor towards it. Again, I haven't seen much of the director's previous work, so I'm not sure if this is him, Blueprint 101, but going from this as his first film for me to see, this is very impressive, and I actually really enjoyed it. It's got a really fantastic kind of hard-hitting thriller. It's got a lot of good, interesting kind of connected sub-stories. The core of the film basically is a serial killer is going around this kind of city, and the way the city is portrayed is absolutely brilliant. It's like a Frank Miller kind of comic book, Sin City kind of graphic novel. It's all set in black and white. The way the city looks, the cinematography, it's very kind of like, not traditional. It doesn't look like a real world a little bit, even though it is a real city, it's a real world. It's just kind of like on a filth, grimy, kind of grunge, kind of horrible kind of, city kind of landscape. And it's mainly focused on these specific kind of, poor kind of areas kind of thing. You've got, you're homeless, you have drugs, you've got people that are being killed, and dismembered body parts are popping up in different places, mainly hands. And this leading detective, our main leading character, is basically hot on the trail, and he's trying to figure out, who this killer is, why is he doing it, what's the connecting pattern, and they're all being dumped at these kind of garbage place kind of areas kind of thing, and wrapped around in kind of old kind of newspapers. And there's a connection between all these kind of characters, and they're all basically lowest of the lowest, and they have no real family or no connections. They're very difficult to track down, so there's no kind of no one chasing after these kind of victims in a sense. And Mason Lee's character is the partner. He comes in fresh off kind of like the academy, and this leads into a kind of second main kind of leading story to the film, which is basically this woman who is responsible for killing our main lead detective's kind of wife in a kind of just a very kind of silly kind of taking drugs while driving, basically paralyzing his wife and leaving her comatose in a sense. And she is served time in prison, but she's out, but she's also living life rough. She hasn't got much kind of career choices. She's kind of jacking cars in a sense. You get to see a little bit of her kind of day-to-day lifestyle. She's kind of wrapped up in the kind of the criminal organization, and she comes across our main lead detective, and basically he fucking flips when he sees her, and he basically almost tries to kill her by running her over, and he really wants to fucking take her down. And this element becomes a really kind of big part of the story, this idea of kind of this woman who has done something so horrible and something so wrong and destroyed essentially this guy's kind of family in a sense. She kind of feels so guilty and so overwhelmed by this kind of burden that she basically says, I'm sorry, I'll be an informant, I'll do anything you say, just let me help them, let me give, I want forgiveness. She, the burden, the guilt is so overwhelming to her, she's willing to do anything. And he really kind of puts her through the ringer, he really puts her through some paces, really mistreats her, puts her in kind of like, serious danger of some criminals, and puts her in a lot of harm's way. And this, without saying too much, the film definitely escalates and definitely goes into places, which I'm glad it did, because it actually makes the integral main story of that kind of very intense relationship pay off even more so in the film. A woman that is willing to put herself in serious danger, in knowing between criminals, but also the serial killer's path, just to kind of get forgiveness and try to make it even with this detective character. And he is someone who's very kind of angry, very kind of hot-headed. He's emotional, and he just wants to get this killer, and he basically wants his woman dead, essentially, or wants her to suffer like he suffered, in a sense. You've got Mason Lee's character, which is, basically having a wisdom tooth problem, and he is the rookie character. He's basically the audience, essentially. He's the equivalent of the audience character, and he is someone who is doing things by the textbook, he's doing things by the law, and he's guiding them in the middle, essentially, of these two kind of people, and he's trying to do the right thing. And he definitely steps up, he definitely gets some really good scenes, and there's some good kind of conversations that do happen, and there's some mess ups that do happen with his character as well, which I quite like. I don't want to say too much about the film. Ultimately, I don't want to give away too much of the film, but I would say the performance is absolutely top notch, really well performed. The way the film is paced, it's a 2-hour movie, thriller, and it's really well delivered in terms of not only just cinematography, style, tone. It's just really well presented, and get to know the killer as well, why the killer is doing what he is doing. Some pretty harsh scenes as well towards the third act. I won't give away too much, but it definitely wants you to kind of feel the emotion that's happening on screen and how much these characters are suffering alongside the killer, which is also going through his kind of mental kind of torture. It has a brilliant kind of third act sequence, really intense, really kind of, stylized, and I think the black and white kind of feel towards it, without seeing the blood and kind of, the natural colors, really kind of adds to that kind of feel towards it. Someone could say this film is boring. I would completely disagree. If anyone likes kind of really well told, hard-hitting thrillers with characters that you can get really invested in and really involved in, and and the ending is very appropriate. It's way well handled. I like the last couple of scenes in it. It's kind of just this kind of tragedy kind of world this film presents in kind of thing, and I think it ends really well. It's definitely a film that I would absolutely revisit and rewatch again and recommend. So if you have to a mainstream kind of modern Hong Kong movie that actually is willing to go the extra mile and willing to deliver some brilliant characters, that is stylized, that is well told, and based off a brilliant novel from the sounds of it, I would absolutely recommend Limbo. If you're curious and take a gamble, check out that 4K Blu-ray edition from Germany, which I'm very tempted to pick up myself now after watching the film. So what are your thoughts and opinions on Limbo? What are your thoughts and opinions on the director? Have you seen all his other work? Please comment down below. So meantime, guys, I'm for reviews. Signing out.